Hello all, and welcome to the Button List with Allison
and Heather. We're a pair of gemstone history geology nerds
who each week will share with you weird and wild tales of the gemstone world.
This week, we will continue the story of the Cullinan Diamond, which really is like 100 and something diamonds.
It is. It's
yes.
True. Diamonds, Cullinan Diamonds.
Cullinan Diamonds.
So we're gonna take it back to the 1850s and in South Africa. So in the 1850s,
Throw it back.
But are we dancing now? I mean, we can.
I am.
You're always dancing.
True.
So in South Africa, there were an ethnic group called Boers, and the Boer families decided that they did not want to be part of the British colony at Cape Town, and so they literally, they call it the Great Trek because they literally trekked out into the nowheres to the Transvaal region, and after quote-unquote subduing native tribes, we're just going to go ahead and jump right over that problematic language. They settled in the Transvaal region, and the UK was like, okay, y'all go do the thing. In 1852, the UK, or actually at that point it was the British Empire, signs the Sand River Convention recognizing the independence of 5,000 Boer families in the Transvaal. Now, in another part of South Africa, in 1867, there was a big old diamond discovered by a poor Boer farmer named Erasmus Jacobs. It was wound up being called the Eureka Diamond. So this is going to come back to haunt the Boers in a little while. So by 1877, the Boers were experiencing a lot of economic hardship, and their republic was experiencing threats from outside tribes, from other African tribes, because, they had not necessarily treated the tribes that were occupying the lands upon which they were living very respectfully.
No, they just kind of
plopped
down, and
they
were
plopped
like,
down,
this is where we live now.
Exactly. So they're experiencing economic hardship, they're experiencing threats from African tribes. So Britain, at that point, decides they're gonna annex the Transvaal. They're like, hey y'all, we're gonna take you over, and you're gonna be happy about it, because we're strong and we're gonna protect you. And the Boers were like, excuse you, Britain, what in the world do you think you are doing? So in 1880...
we have rightfully stolen this land.
Exactly. We have rightfully stolen this land. You back the heck off. So in 1880 was the first Boer War. And the Boers did actually win that one. Go Boers. And the Republic was restored to full independence in 1884. But here's the thing. In 1885... gold was discovered in the Transvaal.
Ooh.
So now Britain is like, oh, but wait. Now y'all got gold? And at this point, there's also diamonds that are starting to be discovered in the Transvaal. So in 1885, gold was discovered in the Transvaal. In 1887, T.M. Cullinan, who is going to be a major player, not surprisingly, in this story about the Cullinan Diamond. T.M. Cullinan is going to be a major player. He comes to Johannesburg in 1887 and starts building things and becoming an entrepreneur. Meanwhile, the Boers are rightfully nervous about the fact that they're pretty sure that Britain is going to annex their territory again. Because now there's gold, now there's diamonds, now there's so many more reasons for Britain to be like, hey, come on. And so, unfortunately for the Boers, they made a preemptive attack against Britain, which precipitated the Second Boer War, which, spoiler alert, they did not win. In one of the articles I read, it was marked as a watershed moment for the British Army because it was the first time they used concentration camps in a war setting. So good job, Britain.
Oh, good.
For that. Yeah, there were approximately...
Yay, history.
Yeah, so there were separate concentration camps from what I read for the Afrikaners, which were the white people and the black people. And between the two camps, there were approximately 40,000 women and children who were killed in the camps during this time. Now, while this is all going on, all of this lovely fabulousness, Cullinan is making overtures to a family in the Transvaal called the Pimsloo family. And the Pimsloo family, so the Second Boer War is coming to a close. The Boers they lost. Like, Britain used terrible tactics against them, and effective. Yeah. So this is all kind of happening at the same time. So in 1902, the Boers were down to their last 20,000 soldiers. They've had 40,000 people killed in these concentration camps, and most of them are destitute. So now we're going to just kind of zoom in on the Pimsloo family, who was also destitute after the Second Boer War. Their family farm was destroyed, so Cullinan has feelings that there's going to be diamonds on this farm. There have been some small finds of diamonds, and he feels like it's sitting on a big stash of diamonds. So he wound up buying outright the Pimsloo farm for £52,000, and he signed that transaction in 1902. So basically the same year that the Boers surrendered, because the British had, again, beaten them by hook or by crook.
With both a hook and a crook.
With both a hook and a crook, and probably some other instruments we don't want to talk about on this stream.
Yeah.
So at this point, Cullinan formed the premier diamond mining company and started mining diamonds on the Pimsloo farm, which it turns out is on a giant kimberlite pipe. And I'm going to let Heather expound on kimberlite pipes in just a minute, but this is like the mother lode of the South African diamond mines, essentially. By 1903, the Premier Diamond Company reported a yearly production of 749,653 carats of rough and a profit of 667,738 pounds.
So 52,000 pounds was quite the good investment.
Quite the good investment, it's true. So now we're going to fast forward, because this is not a podcast necessarily about the Boers or the Premier Diamond Mining Company, but it is about a particular diamond. So in 1905, the superintendent of the Premier Diamond Mine was conducting a routine inspection, and he saw a large chunk of something in the wall, and he actually thought it was glass that the workers had hammered into the wall as a prank. So with some clever pocket knife usage, apparently, he pried it out, and it turns out that it was a diamond. It was, in fact, the famous Cullinan Diamond, which weighed more than a pound and was the size of a human heart. This diamond wound up as a gift to King Edward VII in 1907. We'll go over that a little bit more in a bit, but let's talk for a second about what special type of diamond the Cullinan actually was.
So, unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit more than a second. Because, y'all, I researched.
We're going to let Heather do her geology thing.
And we do geology?
But we do need to do one about the Hope Diamond.
We do, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Cullinan Diamond is an unbelievable example of a particular type of diamond. So not only is the Cullinan Diamond just an amazingly beautiful cut stone, but it belongs to a family named after itself called Clipper Diamonds. Clippi.
I did find it amusing that it is named after itself.
Yes. So Clipper stands for Cullinan-like, large, inclusion poor, relatively pure. So CLIP, poor and pure, and then irregularly shaped and resorbed. So the resorption part is the most interesting part of all of this. I'm going to go through...
Okay, please explain, because I was not able to comprehend that.
Don't worry, I'm a gunna.
Awesome.
So,
yes. Should always have an ex-geology major on your podcast.
Yes.
100%.
So, these diamonds have a lot in common. So the large diamonds, almost all of the largest diamonds that we know of are actually of this type of diamond. And the reason they are so large is because of how they form, because they do not form like other diamonds. At least this is the current prevailing theory. All the evidence seems to go right along with this too, which is extremely cool. So they're large, they don't have inclusions in them, meaning they're relatively pure, and the irregular shape. All of those things are indicative of why they are so cool and where the resorption comes in. So diamonds are formed in kimberlite pipes, and we went into kimberlite pipes. Well, they're not formed in kimberlite. They're shot out through kimberlite pipes. So they're not formed there. They're formed in the mantle. But
kimberlite pipes are like the shaken champagne of the earth.
They absolutely are. So if you want to learn more about kimberlite pipes in particular, check out last week's podcast, the Cullinan one, because we got all up in the geology. Because we definitely got all up in the champagne of diamonds.
In the champagne of magma.
Yes. So
basaltic magnification.
Yes.
I said a geology thing, y'all.
You did.
I remembered
how did it feel? Was it fun?
It was. I mean, it was fun. I still don't exactly know what it means, but it was fun.
Excellent. So magnification is essentially the movement of magma itself and how it comes up to the surface and all that good stuff. So there are layers to the mantle underneath the earth. You know, all of you have seen a cross section of the earth. So you've got the crust and you've got the little cross section going down to the little core at the middle. And there's not a whole lot. We know a lot about the upper mantle because that's what comes out as magma. But the behavior of the lower levels of the mantle are much more of a mystery because they're so far below the Earth's surface that we actually can't, it's not like we can go down there and check it out. And we can do very specialized physics experiments on certain things to test it, you know, up to an extent, but it's really hard to know how everything works.
I mean, Zachary Quinto did it in the Star Trek movie.
Well, that was not set in this particular year, so...
What, are you telling me that science fiction is actually fiction?
I'm telling you that we just haven't reached that year yet, so hang on.
Okay.
I mean, we also don't have my flying car yet, but any day now.
Fair.
So, Clipper diamonds they overlap a lot with a particular type of diamond that is graded by the GIA, Gemological Institute of America, as type 2A. Type 2A has almost no nitrogen in it. And nitrogen is a very common imperfection or trace element that you find in diamonds because the nitrogen can actually just sub right in like a puzzle piece where carbon should be. So it's in most diamonds, but it's not in type 2A diamonds. And the number of type 2A diamonds is shrinking, not because they're more rare, but because, well, I mean, they are more rare, but not because they are becoming more rare, but because our ability to test them and find trace element or trace nitrogen is the amount that we can find is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you find nitrogen, then it's no longer a 2A. So clipper diamonds, of which the Cullinan is one, obviously, because it's named after itself.
So what you're saying is that our scientific processes have become more efficient at detecting smaller amounts of nitrogen, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So that's why the number is shrinking. So the Cullinan diamonds, every single one of those is a type 2A diamond. There is a notable exception for a clipper diamond that is not in the type 2A. It does actually have nitrogen in it. No, that's not important for tonight. So 2A is, if you're looking at a Venn diagram, 2A is bigger, and the clipper diamonds are mostly overlapping it with just that one little one hanging off the edge that's off on its own thing. So the reason why we now know about clipper diamonds is because the inclusions in the clipper diamonds are the very interesting part. And the inclusions are so small and so difficult to see that we've only been able to actually see them in fairly recent years. And it's getting easier and easier to see. But the other problem is most yes. The phone is not helping.
No. We should probably start turning that off.
We should.
Califa, stop calling us during the podcast. Why you doing this to us? Why you do us like
that? So it looks like this, but then a little thing. So like that.
Okay, so let's take that from the semi-top before the phone rang. Also, yes, to bug Corvus, of course.
Yes. So, what was the top before the phone rang?
I don't remember where you were. I think you were talking about the Venn diagram.
Oh no! Perfect audio.
Okay, so clipper diamonds, type 2A diamonds, and there's this one diamond that's hanging out there. And what is that diamond? What's up with that guy?
We're not talking about that.
Oh, okay. That is a diamond that shall not be. I feel like that's going to be another podcast.
Could be. So.
I'm trying not to touch it with my foot.
Oh, okay. Might as well put all the stuff.
Trying not to destroy all of the equipment.
Let's put all the stuff that Corvus needs to clip in the same section.
In the same section, exactly. Okay, continue, please.
Okay, so the inclusions in a Cullinan diamond or in a clipper diamond are absolutely the most interesting part, and because they are so tiny that most of them can't be seen with the naked eye.
Be smart.
We are tiny small. They're just baby things. But the inclusions are very different from the inclusions that you find in other diamonds. So let's talk about part of why we're only discovering clipper diamonds now. And part of that is that clipper diamonds tend to be very large and, as I said, inclusion poor, which makes them very high grade, which means that these diamonds are almost all cut and in very expensive pieces of jewelry or crown jewels or, whatever they're all kind of in use, and the scientific community...
And fairly tightly guarded.
Yeah, beefeaters and all. But the scientific community doesn't have the money to buy this kind of diamond typically to study it. So only in recent years have we had the ability to use non-invasive techniques to really get a lot of information about what's going on with these diamonds. And in another podcast, we will talk about why the scientific community did actually get its hands on the Cullinan Diamonds to look at them. But that's the Clipper diamonds, because they're so big and they're so clear and they're so, because they're also just perfectly colorless because they don't have the trace elements that most other diamonds have that give them their color. They're not in the heads of in the industry that is not selling gems. They're not in the industry selling rocks. They're in the industry selling gems. So in the Clipper diamonds, the inclusions are accompanied by fluid, which is extremely rare. Why is there liquid inside a diamond? And there's no actual fracture that leads to the outside of the diamond. So it didn't start from the outside and go in. It formed inside the diamond itself, which is fascinating. Why did that happen, you might ask? So the answer to that is they're pretty sure that Clipper diamonds form in a specific area below where most diamonds form. So most diamonds form in kind of a Goldilocks zone of the mantle, where you get just the right combo of the type of magma and the movement of the magma. But Clipper diamonds form a layer below that. So they are formed between, I think it's 360 to 750 kilometers below the Earth's surface. The reason they know that it cuts off at 750 kilometers below the Earth's surface is because some of them, including some of the Cullinan diamonds themselves, have inclusions of tiny, tiny, tiny little orange garnets. And these particular garnets are low chrome mageritic garnets, and they are a high pressure version of garnets that have excess silica in them. And they cannot exist below 750 kilometers under the Earth. So that's why they know the bottom edge. So the garnets and what's inside the little inclusions in the diamonds, which is a mixture of iron, carbon, what is it? Sorry, I wrote it down and it's not on that page.
We need to get better at note-taking.
We do need to get better at note-taking.
By which, I mean, we need to start taking notes maybe the day before the podcast instead of the day of...
Iron, nickel, carbon, sulfur. So it's got sulfides, but they're modified sulfides. And they have been modified, they're pretty sure, by their journey from way down all the way up. Because it turns out, when you're coming from 360 kilometers under the Earth's surface at a minimum, you go through a lot between.
Which, by the way,
there and...
Am I remembering correctly that that's actually deeper than the Marianas Trench?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I read some of the geology stuff, and then I was like, Heather, I need your help.
She called in an expert.
I don't understand.
I'm not even an expert.
I don't understand all of these words.
I'm experter. So
she's experter, for sure. She's ex parte experter. Sorry, continue.
So, plate tectonics is something that you kind of have to believe in to follow all of this. So one of the ways that they think these diamonds are formed and why they are formed the way they are is the resorption part. So resorption is when plates come together. You know, sometimes they go like this and sometimes they go like this.
So sometimes they make a mountain and sometimes they make a how would you describe that verbally?
One is
subducted. Subducted. Thank you. I knew that word.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes they make a mountain, so sometimes it's smashy and make a peak, and sometimes one is just subducted underneath the other.
Yes. And the subduction is fairly common, but most of the time underneath an ocean floor, so we don't see it. So one of the things
well,
so there another thing that's included in these tiny little bitty inclusions that we can barely see even with instruments is silicates. So that's where the garnets come in because they have the excess silica and they're special garnets. So
they're super special vroom.
They are super special vroom.
They're super special, like
they are like birthday
from
vroom.
the core of the earth vroom.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So they are, they're unstable below a certain point, and they also don't really form ever above a certain point. So these diamonds, the most expensive diamonds that exist on the face of the earth, are also the only window that we have directly into what happens way down deep under the earth, which is really interesting. And Allison loves the story of one of the scientists.
I do. I'm sorry. I find it really funny.
Who was studying these diamonds, Evan Smith, and so he's studying the Cullinan Diamonds.
And this is modern.
This is 2020.
Yeah.
So he's studying the Cullinan Diamonds and finding he's, partly like, this diamond is worth a small country, no pressure.
Or a large country.
Yeah, and part of him is like, I wish I could smash it and see inside. So he can't do that.
No. I mean, he could, but the consequences would be grave.
They would be quite grave, yes.
Quite grave.
Yes.
Quite dire.
So, another really interesting thing about the inclusions in the diamonds is that they tend to line up, but they do not have, their lineup is not relative to the diamond itself. So it seems to be formed while the diamond is forming, not, as the result of a fracture or something like that. So
that's interesting.
How do these diamonds form? And,
how do they form, Heather?
Well, unlike a lot of minerals which form by crystallization, so they have an open space in which to grow, and the size of the open space may vary, but whatever open space they're left in to grow, they form crystals. These diamonds are formed from essentially metallic iron liquid under...
Oh, which totally yeets the carbon, which I love.
Yeah, it does. The carbon's like... There's a lot of yeeting with diamonds, actually. They're yeeted when they form. They're yeeted when they come to the earth. So, yeah.
Maybe we should retitle this one Yeeting Diamonds.
Yeeting Diamonds, yes. So, one of the reasons they're pretty sure that these diamonds are formed by subduction is that the carbon that formed, because diamonds are carbon, like that is all they're made of, is carbon, pretty much. And subduction, not seduction. No, I mean they are seductive as well. But that's different.
Different letters.
Yes. So, there are two stable isotopes of carbon: 13 carbon and 12 carbon. And
okay, now you're talking about isotopes.
I am.
Okay.
So,
just pointing that out.
The isotope of carbon that these diamonds are made of is the organic version of carbon, which almost always comes from oceanographic sources. So if an oceanographic plate is being subducted underneath another plate and then resorbed into the magma there, which is what happens.
There's got to be some kind of like Neptune fire goddess metaphor here.
There's gotta be, but I don't have it.
I don't either.
Okay.
I didn't do that research. Continue.
So that's why they're pretty sure that that's the source of these diamonds, and the carbon from that is what makes the diamonds. So there's a lot more information about this, and I could go on and on and on, but I don't think you really want me to, necessarily. If you do, we'll have more nerdy geology in another podcast.
We could definitely have more nerdy geology in another podcast.
Yes.
For sure.
So the Cullinan Diamond, in particular, was originally described as having a small, round, black inclusion in the center, which was intentionally bisected by Joseph Asscher.
And we'll talk about how he did that in just a second. But first, I want to address the just like complete like level 1 hijinks of how the Cullinan was actually shipped from South Africa to London. Okay, so first of all, the Cullinan was shipped from South Africa to London. So, and I'm going to answer a question that we had earlier about how much it was sold for in just a minute. But so they actually made fakes of the Cullinan, and they sent one of them with great fanfare by steamship, and then they took the actual Cullinan, the actual 1 pound priceless diamond, and they put it in a cardboard box, and they shipped it for 75 cents from South Africa to London, which is about the equivalent of $12 today, which is less, by the way, than a USPS flat rate box. Though a USPS small flat rate box would not contain the Cullinan Diamond. It would need a medium flat rate box. So it would cost $14 to ship it today. But they sent it in a cardboard box, like regular post.
It took a month to arrive, isn't that?
I believe it took a month to arrive, yeah. But both the real and the fake diamonds all arrived in London. So, yay! In London, they were purchased by the British Crown, and so the Cullinan was purchased, in 1907 by the British Crown, or the British government, for the total of £150,000, which today would equate to 22 million pounds. That is still way less than the stones are actually worth. But I love the fake diamond. I'm sorry, it's like a Miss Fisher mystery, okay?
It is.
It's like the fake diamond and the real diamond. So again, the diamond was purchased in 1907 by the British government, and it was gifted to Edward VII on the occasion of his 66th birthday. Edward was known as a partier. He was Victoria's son, and he liked to party. His wife liked to party. His kids liked to party. Everything was a party. He had lots of mistresses. His wife was okay with this. He was affable, popular. He built alliances, and he had a really cool big diamond. But let's talk about the cutting of the diamond. So Joseph Asscher is the one who is widely credited with cutting the Cullinan, with taking this big human heart-sized chunk of perfect and exquisite and unique carbon and turning it into sparkly stones. And that's actually a little bit inaccurate. So what Asscher did was he actually cleaved the stone. which means that he separated the stone along its cleavage planes. And Heather, what is a cleavage plane?
So cleavage plane is the tendency of a mineral to break along flat planar surfaces as determined by the structure of its crystal lattice. So,
oh dear, we got lattices now.
You've heard me talk about crystalline structure before, and the crystalline structure is how all of the atoms line up. And the way the atoms line up and how their bonds work actually determines what shape the crystal makes. So diamonds have a specific, interesting crystalline shape. So,
oh, just you wait.
So there are multiple types of cleavage. Perfect cleavage, in the sense of stones, is unlike cleavage in any other sense, because perfect cleavage creates smooth, flat surface.
If you have perfect cleavage, you're going to get whacked with a hammer, I'm just saying.
So, smooth, flat surfaces are perfect cleavage.
And Heather, what other stones have perfect cleavage?
Oh, mica has perfect cleavage, but also...
What else that I'm wearing on my chest?
Labradorite.
Yes, labradorite has perfect cleavage. Winky, winky.
Yes,
but anyway,
back
to diamonds.
So diamonds in particular have cleavage in 4 directions, and they follow the faces of the diamond crystalline structure is an octahedron, so they follow those faces. Graphite, on the other hand, which is also just carbon, has 1 direction of cleavage, and it is specifically where it, instead of octagons, or octahedrons rather, that diamonds form, it forms hexagonal bonds, the carbon in graphite does, and it has the 1 direction of cleavage just like mica does or labradorite, but it is, the bonds holding it together are they're van der Waals bonds, which are essentially bonds that are made up of when atoms get excited and their electrons move around. When their electrons move around together in the right place, they join together very, very briefly in a van der Waals bond.
Okay, Heather, you realize how that all sounded, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Yes. Just saying that the van der Waals bond sounds very romantic.
Well, it's not all that romantic. It's very weak, actually.
Okay, so hey, who's ever hooked up with a guy in a bar? Cheers to that.
Cheers.
That is
to
officially
weak
a
bonds.
van der Waals bond.
But that's why graphite is so slippery, almost, because what's actually happening with the graphite is the little planes are perfectly sliding off each other because you're
not
breaking.
Gonna get out of this one.
You're breaking the bonds. But anyway, diamonds cleave, and people who cut stones know how stones cleave, so they can know how to cut them, and that's why certain stones are more often found in certain different faceting types.
So Asscher was a genius as far as diamonds go, and like I said, he is credited with the cutting and polishing of all of the Cullinan stones, but he really actually entrusted that to his more than capable staff. What he did is the freaking terrifying part of cleaving the actual stone. So, let me just take what Heather just said and put it in perspective. So when you have a giant diamond in front of you, you first of all have to have enough knowledge to identify the cleavage planes. And Asscher studied the diamond for weeks and weeks before he even approached it. But how do you cleave a diamond? Let me tell you how. Heather, do you want me to tell you how?
I really can't wait. Yes.
Yeah. So you take... Okay. in modern gem cutting, it's usually done with a laser, but we're talking about 1908, so laser's not so much a thing. So you take another diamond and you basically grind a groove on the appropriate cleavage plane with another diamond, and then you take a steel knife, you put it in the groove, and you hit it with a hammer.
The minute his head comes into view.
With a rock. Yeah. Okay, so Asscher was a genius. Asscher was the Diamond Whisperer. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a cut named after him.
Yeah.
The man was definitely very accomplished, but the first time he tried to cleave the Cullinan, he hit the knife with the hammer and the knife broke. And the story goes, Asscher then fainted. Because, really, how could you not? Like, you have the most valuable piece of carbon ever discovered in front of you. You grind the thing, you put the knife, you hit it, and the knife breaks. And, like, I'm sorry. I think I would have been gone from this world.
I broke everything. I know.
I don't even think I would have passed.
I would have subducted.
No, I would just, exactly. I would have been gone. Like,
or you would have yeeted like a diamond.
Yeah, like, I would have been yeeted from this mortal coil, because I would have been like, oh my god, there's nothing I can do to fix this. So, the diamond was not damaged at all, because it broke the knife. So, Asscher, after recovering from his fainting spell, got another knife, and actually was successfully able to cleave the diamond. He cleaved the diamond into 9 major sections, which were cut and polished, again, by his capable staff. And then there were over 90 minor stones. So
96.
Yes. So the main Cullinan diamonds are almost, I think they are all exclusively in the possession of the British royal family. But there are 9 major Cullinan diamonds, so cut and polished. They are as follows.
Cullinan 1, the Great Star of Africa. It is 530.20 carats. Let that sink in.
And also, just for reference, so 5 carats equals a gram. And let's see, hold on.
So that's a centigram of diamonds.
So, okay, so 400 grams equals a pound. So, how many carats was that one?
530.2.
Okay, so 530 by 5. So, I mean, that's like a fifth of a gram. It's
a quarter of a pound.
Yeah, it's big. Big.
Yeah, a quarter pounder on your head. A quarter
pounder on your... Oh, you could totally... Like, that would be a really good, like...
Oh, no, that one's in the scepter. It's in the sovereign scepter.
Yes.
Yes.
I know, but I would like a quarter pound of diamonds to, like, bonk people with my scepter.
I mean, somebody has that.
Were I in a position to have a sovereign scepter, which I am definitely not.
But yes, the Great Star of Africa is a pear shape. The Cullinan 2 is Lesser Star of Africa. That is so much lesser, only 317.4 carats. That's a cushion shape.
Sad.
And that is in the Imperial State Crown. Cullinan 3, 94.4 carats, set with the Cullinan 4, which is only 63.6, and that's a square cut brilliant. Those were originally part of Queen Mary's crown, then they were reset into a brooch in the personal collection of Elizabeth II. No, they will not share. They will not share the diamonds.
They will not share the diamonds.
Yes.
No, you can go see them, though, in the Tower of London.
But if you had known Joseph Asscher, all of the diamonds that he was paid with, he did sell. That was, Cullinan 5, 18.8 carats, heart shape, set in a brooch that belonged to Queen Mary. Cullinan 6, 11.5 carat marquise, originally presented to Queen Alexandra by Edward VII, and now resides in an emerald and diamond necklace owned by Queen Elizabeth II. Cullinan 7. You know, we're just getting tinier and tinier.
I know, they're just getting sadly tiny. So
sadly
sad.
Tiny.
So sad.
Cullinan 7 is an 8.8 carat marquee.
Only 8 carats.
Well, almost 9. But yeah.
To be fair, an 8 carat diamond is like the size of my eye.
Yeah. Like, eyeball, not just...
Yeah.
And it's set with the Cullinan 8, independent, owned by Queen Elizabeth II. Cullinan 9 is pitiful in comparison.
So sad.
Yeah, it is.
I'm very sad for the Cullinan 9.
I know.
It's just awful.
4.39 carat pear-shaped, mounted into a ring for Queen Mary, that is now owned by Elizabeth II.
So sad. So sad.
The remaining 96 polished diamonds were given to Asscher as a fee for cutting the Cullinan and were sold by Asscher to various clients, all of whom got really awesome diamonds because, last thing about the cutting of the diamonds. So remember when I was talking about how cool the inclusions are?
Mm-hmm.
The cutting of the diamonds gets rid of almost all the inclusions.
So this is an interesting divergence of science and fashion.
Yeah.
Because science is like, ooh, inclusion, you have so much information. And fashion is like, oh, inclusion, bye.
Yeah. So that's why Joseph Asscher...
So he did. He specifically cleaved to... Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't know what was in that particular inclusion because they have so few... The Clipper diamonds have so few inclusions, and the ones that do are so precious informationally.
Informationally, but not... but not necessarily monetarily.
Yeah. So, anyway, diamonds. Diamonds upon diamonds upon diamonds. And
yes. So
cool diamonds.
Cool diamonds. It's true. So the coronation of King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla has brought back to the surface, and the death of Queen Elizabeth II. These are things that have been kind of, coming to the surface for a while, but this has brought up ongoing questions about the ethics of diamond mining past and present. Okay, diamonds today are still mined using unethical practices. Diamonds in the past were 100% mined using unethical practices.
Without exception.
Without exception. Like, you're talking about dangerous labor conditions. You're talking about exploitation of indigenous labor forces. You're talking about down the line health conditions because of the conditions in the mines. So the question becomes, if there's a great call for these stones to be repatriated to their native soil, and the legality is fuzzy. It's complicated. Legally everything's on the up and up. But if the ethical question rather than the legal question becomes, if these stones were okay, I'll answer that in a second. So the ethical question becomes, if these stones were repatriated to their native ground, how many bridges could be built? How many roads could be built? How many health programs for sick former miners could be endowed by the services that could happen if these stones were displayed, if admission was charged, etc. Like, how, yes. Okay, Heather answered the question, Corvus, so there you go. And we will do a podcast on that. Mm-hmm. But if these stones were repatriated to their countries of origin, like, how much more good could they do there than where they currently reside? As gem lovers and also ethical inhabitants of this world, I personally, and I think Heather agrees with me, that it is our responsibility to respect the history of these items while also respecting the complexity inherent in their stories, which means giving equal weight to the good and the bad. And giving equal weight to the stories of the conquerors and the conquered, and trying to figure out how we as compassionate humans can take these stories and use them to make something better.
Yes.
So I think is that it for us tonight?
I think so.
Okay, well then thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of The Button List with Allison
and Heather. You can catch The Button List weekly on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube.
And you can watch our complimentary live tutorials every Wednesday and Friday at 6 p.m. Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and twitch.tv/beatingdream. Night, everyone.